Hello, my name is Aviva, and today I wanted to share with you a bunch of romance book recommendations with the I was a player until I met you trope. So I have a very love-hate relationship with this trope because I always start off the book being like, oh my god, but he's a player, he's sleeping around with so many girls, I'm already jealous and I don't even know him. But then what I love about this trope is that like throughout the book you slowly get to see him change and be like, I only have eyes for this girl, like I'm never gonna look at another girl in my entire life, like I'm keeping my eyes closed, you know what I mean? And I love seeing that. I love seeing like a player fall so freaking hard for that one girl. And that is why today I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of my favorite books that fit into this category, because sometimes these books don't really work for me because like I tend to get too jealous depending on like, you know, all the conflicts that go on in this book, but like happens to be in everything I'm sharing with you today. Like I just loved these books from beginning to end. And the first book that I'm going to share with you is one of the books that will definitely be on my top 10 of this year, and that is Consider Me by Becca Mack. So I recently read this book, and if you follow me anywhere else on social media like TikTok and Instagram, then you have already seen me talk about this book because I will be raving about this book forever. I'm going to try and put this in as many videos as I can, because if you are going to take one book recommendation for me, it should be this book. This is one of the best books I have ever read, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it at the moment. So in this book, you're following this guy who is the captain of his professional hockey team, and he is obviously like a super big player. And one day he's at a party, he sees this girl. The girl turns him down because like she's not into dating people who are like very well known for their one night stands. And then obviously he's going to end up chasing after her and do basically anything he can think of to try and get her to consider him. You know, you get it. Very cute. But anyway, this book was amazing. I absolutely loved it. This guy turned from like literally the biggest player in his league to the mushiest guy in the entire world. And seeing that, like, you know, the development in him was like the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like I absolutely loved this book. And one reason why I really did love it was because the relationship, the way that they built it up, like both of these characters, it was so freaking adorable. It was so healthy. Like the way that they communicated with each other and like the way that they understood each other, I've never seen something done so well in a book. So I highly recommend checking this one out. If you are going to take any book recommendation from this video, make it be this one. But if you don't want to read this one for some odd reason, then I will recommend one that is very similar to that, and that is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So if you liked The Deal, because I know this is a popular book, then read Consider Me, because literally like very similar books, except Consider Me is like 1,000 times better. But this is like the OG book, because I read this one a long time ago, and like literally like this is just like the classic smaller version of it, you know, like it's literally like less than half the size. But either way, this is about a player who is the captain of his hockey team as well in his college, which is called Briar U, which is the spin-off series for this series. And either way, he's in a class, he's not doing so well, so he basically asks one of the smartest people in his class to tutor him, and she is not very interested in him because he is a player, and she actually has a crush on somebody else. So they end up making a deal where they are going to pretend to date to try and get her crush jealous, and in exchange she's going to tutor him, and then obviously she's gonna end up falling for this guy instead. So this book is absolutely amazing. It is my favorite book in the entire Briar U off-campus companion series sort of situation. There's like 8 books like throughout like this entire universe, and this one is my ultimate favorite. So I highly recommend this one. But if you end up reading this one and then you want a little bit more, then another book that fits into this category is The Score by Elle Kennedy. So these books, like, you know, it's a bunch of guys on the hockey team and like they're all best friends, and this one is about the actual like ultimate player in their group. Like he, like in all of the books before this book happens, you always see him like sitting on a couch with like a bunch of like puck bunnies all around him. Like he's literally like the player, and like everybody knows it. And in this book he's gonna end up falling for the girl's best friend from the first book. So like she is very off limits because like, you know, it's a friend group and like you shouldn't sleep with people in your friend group, but like the situation just happens, they end up sleeping with each other and they end up falling for each other. And these two people are like such a freaking good match. I absolutely loved this one as well. So I highly recommend, you know, checking this one out too. But either way, after that, I also wanted to share with you another book that I recently read, which is Sway by Adriana Locke. So I did talk about this in my May wrap up, but we're going to talk about it again in case you didn't see that video. So in this book, you're following this guy who is a politician, and he's in the middle of running for governor. So he's at like one of his campaign events, and then what happens? Oh, right. He meets a waitress, and then, you know, he obviously likes what he sees, so he kind of chases after her, and then like she says no because like, you know, he's very well known to like, you know, just sleep around. He's kind of like a big bachelor, and also she's not into dating politicians because her ex-husband was a politician, and therefore she has like a lot of bad memories from like how all of that went down. So she says no to him, and he doesn't take no for an answer, so he chases after her, and then obviously she's gonna eventually give in. So this was a really fun time as well. This one had a very interesting explicit scene with a bunch of grapes, and if you want to find out how that all went down, then I recommend checking out Sway by Adriana Locke. So yeah, anyway, Anyway, next up, I also have A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So I don't remember when I read this. It must have been like, 2, 3, somewhere months ago. But either way, in this book, you're following this guy who is known as like one of the biggest bachelors in town. He is like a professional like plastic surgeon or something. Like he's the surgeon for like the rich and famous sort of thing. And anyway, he's going to end up getting a new personal assistant. And then obviously they're going to end up having a relationship. So this one was very good. What I really liked about this book specifically was seeing why this guy was a player and like, kind of getting to know him on like a deeper level, because like at first glance, this girl really didn't like him because she obviously didn't like his reputation. But then as she got to know him and like, as they actually started to like, interact a lot, she realized that like, no, he is like so different than what he appears to be to the public eye. And it was so cute to see like how all of that went down. So I highly recommend this one too. I liked it a lot. Anyway, next up, I have Boss Man by V. Keelan. So this is like a classic like workplace environment sort of situation. These two people, they meet one day like at a restaurant while they're on dates with different people. And then they end up like, it's funny how it ends up working out. And then they end up like a month later running into each other again. And then she's somehow going to end up like working for him. So, it's a boss employee sort of thing. And it is a really good time. And the thing is like, this guy is a really big player. And like, therefore she's like, not only is like, she not interested because it's her boss and she doesn't want to lose her job, but like also he's a player and she's not into that. And then obviously all of a sudden he's like not gonna be able to get with anybody else because like only she is on her mind, like on his mind sort of thing. And then it just, it's gonna play out how it plays out. But basically this is a really good one. It's actually one of my favorite V. Keelan books I have ever read, and I have read a lot of her books. So, V. Keelan, Boss Man, I recommend. Next up, I also have Scoring Wilder by R.S. Gray. So this is actually one of my favorite books by this author, and I feel like I have not talked about this book in a while, but I did read it last summer and I absolutely loved it. So this is like it's a little bit of a forbidden romance because it's a coach to a soccer player sort of relationship, and like she's on the college team and it's not so much of an age gap. He's just a couple of years older than her, but he is a pro soccer player and he's gonna end up being her coach for the season, and then they're gonna end up having a relationship. And the thing is like at the beginning of the book, you totally see that like he is very much playing into his pro soccer playing vibe, and he gets around a lot. And then obviously he's gonna see her, he can't get anybody else, like he's not interested in anybody else besides for her, and then therefore he's going to pursue her. So it's a very good story. I really liked it, and it's very similar to Culty by Mariana Zapata. So if you have read that book and you really enjoyed it, then I recommend checking this one out too, because you'll probably really like it as well. Next up is what do I have? I have The Club Obsession by Lauren Asher. So this, I feel like this is the one where he is the most, like he's the biggest player out of all of these books that I am like sharing with you today. So in this book, you're following this guy who is very, very wealthy, and he has this thing where like, he just wants to sleep around. He likes giving like women orgasms, but like he doesn't want to feel bad about like saying goodbye to them after he's done with them sort of thing. So he signs up for this like private like dating sort of app. Like it's like a club, like a sex club sort of thing, where basically he like says exactly what he wants from a woman and they're going to find him his perfect match. So he fills out this application, he sends it in, and then the application girl ends up reading it and being like, who the hell does this guy think he is? So she actually sends him like a private email responding to his message, and then they're going to end up having a relationship. And like he's gonna have to chase her down, find out who she is, and then like he's basically gonna pursue her, and then all of a sudden he's going to change from like the biggest player in the world into like the mushiest guy of all time. So I highly recommend this one. This is actually the first book in a 3 to 4 book series. It's like 3 books and then like an epilogue full-on book. And I mean, it's an interesting story. Book 1 was my favorite of the series, but like the rest of it is really good. So like, I still recommend highly checking this one out, because this one is not only a very good book, but it's also very, very steamy if you're into that, so yeah. Anyway, after that, I also wanted to share with you The Takeover by T.L. Swan. So this is another like workplace environment sort of book, and this guy is like, he works with all of his brothers, he's very wealthy, and he ends up meeting this girl while he's trying to take over her company, because that's kind of like what he does. He takes companies that are failing and he tries to like make them better, and she doesn't like him right off the bat because he's got a bad reputation and she doesn't like what he really does. He's very arrogant, all of that sort of stuff. And then so she kind of says no to like his offer of like buying out her company, and then a couple of months later they end up meeting at a conference, and that is when everything goes down, because like he couldn't get her her off of like, his mind for a very long time. So like when he sees her again, he starts messing with her, starts like, interacting with her. And then obviously it's going to end up going down. And the thing is that this is a single mom book, and her children are the funniest things in the entire world. Like, I'm not joking. The way that he interacted with her children was the best part of this book. So I highly recommend checking this one out. This was like a 5 out of 5 stars. I could not stop laughing when I read some of the scenes in this book. Like literally, like if you want a good laugh, read this book. But anyway, after that, I also wanted to share with you 2 more sports romances, which I probably should have put before when I was talking about all the sports romances, but it's okay. So anyway, I have Throttled and then Wrecked by Lauren Asher. So this is the first and then the third book in the Dirty Air companion series. So in this book, you're following Formula One race car drivers, and they each get their own book. They're all a bunch of friends who are in this like playing for different teams sort of thing, and they're all going to have their own random romance. So like in book 1, this guy is going to end up having a romance with one of his rivals' little sisters, and then in this book is the third book, and he's going to end up having a romance with his what's it called, like a personal relations person, a PR. He's going to end up having a relationship with his PR manager. So in both of these books specifically, like there are 4 books in the series, but these are my 2 favorite. And to be honest with you, I haven't read the 4th book yet, so I don't know if he's a player or not, but both of these guys were definitely a player. This one was like, this guy was so much of a player that his company had hired a PR manager to try and fix his image, because every other night he was seen at a bar, like hooking up with a different woman. So that is literally like, the whole thing about this book. But in this book also, like he very much was a player until he saw this girl, and then, he kind of stopped his ways and stopped going to all the clubs every night sort of thing. So anyway, I recommend checking out both of these books. I really did enjoy them. And if you do like them, then, there's 2 more books in the series. So, win-win everywhere along the lines. And then last up, I'm going to share with you 2 books from one of my all-time favorite series, which is the Sinner of Saints series. So I have book 2, which is Ruckus. And then I have book 4, which is Bane. And in both of these books, I feel like these guys were very much players until they met the woman in these books. So happens to be, we'll start with book 2. And I will be very honest with you that this was my least favorite book from this series, mostly because it is somewhat of a second chance romance, and I just don't like second chance romances. But if you are into second chance romances, then this book is absolutely amazing. So in this book, you're following this guy who he honestly like had a crush on somebody in high school, and it never ended up working out for them, like, way back when. And now that like they're way older, they happen to be living in the same building for a time, and they basically decide to get their second chance. So he is like literally the ultimate playboy. Like ever since like he was turned down from that girl, like way back when, he literally decided to like just like get with anybody that he can like get with, which was everybody, because he's super hot and super rich. So anyway, he is very much the playboy of his entire group. And then he sees this girl, and then all of a sudden he becomes the mushiest guy in the world. And you know what, it sounds very repetitive because I'm talking about all the books where the same thing happens, but in this book specifically, like it was very, very adorable. So I highly recommend checking this one out. And then lastly, I have Bane, which is the 4th book in this companion series, and happens to be, this one is about this guy who basically wants some money from this other guy for an investment. And in order to like get the money from him, the guy basically makes a deal with him of being like, look, my daughter is not doing very well because she was sexually assaulted. I actually recommend checking up a lot of trigger warnings for this, for like sexual assault, PTSD, depression, things along those lines. But basically the girl is having a very hard time, and she really needs to like, wake up a little bit, get out of the house, stuff like that. So he's like, look, you're almost the same age as my girl, so why don't you, become friends with her, get her to like liven up a little bit, and in exchange, I will give you the money that you're asking for. So he's like, okay, sure, I can't say no because I really need like these millions and millions of dollars. So that's exactly what he does. And honestly, it is an amazing story. I absolutely love this one. This is one of my favorites from the series. Like this one just, it hits so differently. So yeah, that is about it. That is all the books that I wanted to share with you for today's video of I Was a Player Until I Met You. All of these books are absolutely amazing. All of them got like literally like 4.5 or above sort of stars. So like really, this was a good set of books. So I hope that you found some good book recommendations to take from this video. If you are, planning to read any of them, feel free to leave me a comment down below. I'd love to know which books you decided to check out for yourself. And anyway, if you enjoyed watching this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And until next time, enjoy reading.